What if I told you that focusing on the most recent trend in business is actually keeping you stuck? Let me break down to you why most entrepreneurs never get past that tactical level and why understanding the bigger picture, what I call the timeless strategy, is what really sets the successful businesses apart. I'm going to share how I made that shift myself and why it's key to scaling your business and getting out of firefighting mode. I've recently become obsessed with the concept of tactics versus timeless because there are so many tactics that even I see all the time, whether it's I'm on YouTube or I'm on Twitter or on LinkedIn, and someone is presenting a tactic that is, here's how I did blank in blank amount of time. Right? A very common marketing thing. Right? Here's how I got 10,000 people on my mailing list in 30 days. And then they go into some tactic and, they might be selling something as a guru BS course. They might be just sharing it in the post, but it's very tactical and people love those tactics. I mean, you've probably seen these online where they're pitching something that talks about a platform or a specific result that is incredibly targeted to the kind of thing that you think is the outcome that you want. So, I would love to have 10,000 new people on my mailing list, or I would love to have ads that are 15% cheaper. I would love to have a whole new service product line that was a business in a box that somebody made for me and I can just press a button. These are all these tactical things, but 99% of the people that are engaging with that content are missing the big piece that is strategy. So the timeless piece is the strategy. It is, do you really understand how the levers of business work? Or are you going to be taking some tactic, attempting to imitate that tactic, and you may get some tactical success if you do a good job, but that's not really the big goal, right? The big goal isn't the 10,000 people on the mailing list. The big goal is you're selling something or you're engaging people in this kind of outcome that they want. So it's about stepping back when so much of this is presented as tactics because we're so interested in tactics, right? It sounds like, it's a little dopamine hit because I've just learned something. But you haven't really learned something. You've learned that one person did something one way and they are now promoting that way. And you might win a battle, but you're not going to win the war that way. Entrepreneurs usually make the shift from tactic to timeless when they've stopped fighting fires. Well, I would say that actually most of them never make that switch. Most of them stay with tactics because they're always looking for the next thing that's going to save them. They're always looking for what's the one thing that's going to change everything. I did this for years, especially early in my entrepreneurial career. I was like, this will be the next thing. I'll try Facebook ads. That doesn't work. I'll try LinkedIn ads. And they just keep on trying things because they get excited about something they see and they're excitable and they see that could be a contributing factor to the success of the business. And most of them never grow out of that, which is why most of them stay in firefighting mode, which is why most of them can't scale because they don't really understand the levers of the business. So I'd say that most never leave that tactical bucket. Those that do are the ones that finally get to a place, whether it's by accident or by just relentlessly focusing on one tactic that pays off enough that they can get their head above water and start thinking bigger picture. Because you have to get to a place where you really understand the business as a model, the business as numbers, and the business as processes. And then you can start thinking, okay, well, what is timeless about this, right? What about this business will be true still in 1 year, in 5 years, and 10 years? And that allows you to distill the business into numbers and processes, which will exist for a long period of time. And that requires the timeless stuff, right? Understanding how all of these business systems hook together and not worrying so much about the individual tactic. The tactic can slot in to a small bit piece contributor to that, but it's not going to make or break the business. In each business, I had a different tactic that let me escape the grind and the trap. And I think in most of the businesses, it was getting out of operations. So it was building standard operating procedures. That's pretty tactical, right? People say, okay, you got to build these playbooks, these standard operating procedures. And that was what allowed me to get out of my hands on the keyboard and doing the work and get into seeing, okay, well, if I'm not doing the work, then I can actually pay attention to the business. And that was because most of my early businesses were services businesses. So that was the thing that got me out. In my e-commerce business, the thing that got me out was figuring out out a lot of the testing methodologies that I use in terms of rapid testing to find out what advertisements work. And that allowed that business to scale so that I could step back and say, okay, well, how do I make this business into just numbers? How do I make this business into, I understand what these numbers need to be. And if I can hit these numbers with whatever tactics I use, this machine is going to work. So it kind of depends on the business type. So in my case, it was standard operating procedures for a services business, and it was the ad strategy that I use for testing, the scientific entrepreneurship process that did it in my e-commerce business. But both of those can work. And there's, each business might have a slightly different tactic that gets them there, but largely it is A, picking a tactic that can work, and B, spending enough time on it. Because jumping from tactic to tactic means that you never master one. The shift that let me see that SOPs were the way to go for my services business, the idea was, if I can't focus on getting more customers, you can't grow. And so then I asked myself, well, what's the thing that's getting in the way of me getting more customers? Oh, well, I'm spending too much time actually doing client work. So it was very pragmatic, and I just had to focus my attention somewhere else. And if I kept on focusing my attention on client work, that would never get anywhere. So that was, I have to create a way to get things out of my brain and into someone else's brain. And that's where the standard operating procedures came from. So it was very pragmatic. I relentlessly look for new ways of doing things better. So I'm sure I heard that tactic from someone else and somewhere. But the difference is I didn't just stop there. I went wholesale on, okay, I'm not just going to make a standard operating procedure for everything that I'm doing today. I'm going to make it so that the entire business is run on standard operating procedures. So even beyond what I'm doing, now I said, okay, anyone who's now executing those standard operating procedures, those SOPs now are owned by you. And every time we change anything or you do something better, you're going to own updating that. And when we hire the next person, you're going to build the SOPs for that role with that person so that I never touch it. So right now, for instance, there are so many SOPs that I have in the businesses that I own that I don't even know what they are. I could probably find them, but my chief of staff knows where they are and she knows what they do, but I don't even know them. All I know is now, because I've abstracted myself to the strategic level, right? So I'm really much more at the timeless level. Here are the things that need to happen regularly in order for this to succeed. Are they happening? And I have a dashboard, so I don't need to know that layer anymore. And the faster that you can get out of that tactical layer of the doing of the thing and get into the, what's the dashboard? What's the one number I need to look at in order to know that this thing is going okay? And that is the distinction. So for me, it was a stepwise journey, but I've seen people get there all different kinds of ways. Again, so long as they were focused on not the tactic of the day that's going to save them. All right, now you've got the big picture on tactics versus strategy. If you're ready to free up 20 hours a week and really start scaling your business, check out this video right here, where I dive into exactly how to make that happen.